Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron. I hope you're having a great day or night in Jesus. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to be looking at what's known as diacritical markings in Codex Vaticanus. And what this is little symbols in the margins of Codex Vaticanus. My friend, Brother Dominguez from Panama, wonderful missionary to Panama, just sent me a video of a guy going through this. I kind of already had it on my list to do, and I'm not going to be able to go into it in as much depth of that video that he sent. I wish I could remember the guy's name. But let's get into it. We're in TextusReceptusBibles.com, and it's the originality of text critical symbols in Codex Vaticanus. So, the Codex Vaticanus claims to be a 4th century vellum manuscript, starting at Genesis like 49:10, going through part of the book of Hebrews, and may have some pseudepigrapha in there and that kind of thing. But it's considered by many the best manuscript. I've done a few videos on it showing where it came from. That was probably going to be a palimpsest, and on and on. And there's a huge growing body that it's really not from the 4th century. So the Codex Vaticanus contains 850 textual markers, which in 1995 were discovered to be markers for textual variants. That's very important. So the textual markers look like the umlauts or double dots. The Vatican itself has identified many of these dots as being part of the original document. To understand the importance of this discovery, you must understand that it's the variants in the verses of text that distinguish the Byzantine text from the Alexandrian text. So it's like, okay, they had double dots here, and they indicate that there's textual variants here. So for the past 22 years, scholars have argued over the dots, with some trying to claim the marker must have been added at a later date. The reason for the skepticism is self-evident when you consider the implications. Many of these dots point to variants and only exist in Byzantine manuscripts that underlie the King James, Textus Receptus, all this. There are also dots next to the comma in 1 John 5, 7, and 8. So if it really is a 300s manuscript, this shows that 1 John 5, 7, and 8 existed then, which there's many evidences for that. I've done many videos on that, and then given book reviews on other books that show that. This means the Byzantine text would have predated the Codex Vaticanus. 1 John 5, 7, and 8 was before the Codex Vaticanus. Many critical text scholars, and all the other variants it shows, many critical text scholars have argued against these textual markers for years, but have failed to find a way to refute the evidence that points to the Byzantine text existence before the Alexandrian text. So then it's got the original paper on the discovery of these text critical marks. Because if you read, I love reading history, and like you read the history of textual criticism in the 1800s, that the Vatican really didn't want people to examine it. The Codex Vaticanus. Are text critical markers a phenomenon only found in Codex Vaticanus? Nobody had previously asked the question of whether textual variants had been marked in early manuscripts that were found in Codex Vaticanus. Nobody had bothered to look or understand. Once people started looking, the results were astounding, to say the least. Because now, you find like the nominum sacra, and it was like an abbreviation for deity, and it's applied to Jesus in a lot of ancient manuscripts, showing they believe Jesus was God. Gail Ripplinger shows some very ancient manuscripts that have like a line over it, meaning the next time you copy this, take out that word, because Satan's a thief. It was soon found that the 4th century hexapolaric Codex Calberto Saravinus, the LXXG, contained dot markers. This would be the Septuagint. Dot markers in its margin that could correspond closely to the shape and location of dot markers in Vaticanus. The markers for Codex Calberto Saravianus are similar enough to Vaticanus that one has to wonder if they may have come from the same scriptorium. Although the Septuagint is a Greek version of the Hebrew Bible, Old Testament, its production dates from the same time period. And that's most people who use the Septuagint are using a translation of Vaticanus, for the most part. This pattern follows the established use by Origen in the midst of LXXG body text, proving that both were part of the original production of LXXG. There's no dispute that these dot marker locations or the Hebrew scriptures do not include the adjacent text. Origen describes the method he used in his famous letter to Africanus, AD 240. He did a 5-volume or 6 column look at the various Septuagints that were out there. I marked, for the sake of distinction, with the sign the Greeks call an obulus, these passages in our copies which were not found in the Hebrew. The same system can be found in Aristarchus of Samothrace, 217 to 145 BC, system of marking lines in Homer's works he considered spurious. No matter who originated them, the use of the stigma or umlauts to mark Greek textual variants was well established in Alexandria, that's Egypt, not Virginia, in most Louisiana, most widely accepted provenance of Codex Vaticanus. It's highly unlikely that critical text scholars will ever admit that Byzantine texts predate the critical text. There's simply too much at stake for them. There would have to be a willingness to say their methods are flawed. They'd have to say they're wrong, and as science has constantly proven, it's much easier to deceive people than to convince people they've been deceived. Because once they lock it in their mind, pride keeps them from that. The fact remains that these text critical marks are in Codex Vaticanus and are verified by the same markings in other manuscripts. None of the scholars charged with researching this or trying to refute that the marks point to textual variants, but there are so many ways this information can be suppressed, so don't expect a definitive answer anytime soon. And we find this in archaeology all the time. Archaeology, the Bible's true. Let's reinterpret the evidence, and then there's a fight. Well, and then it's reported as, well, uncertainty exists. Not really. But they'll make it uncertain. So we're going to continue on to this in our next video. We want to say God bless you. Thanks for being here. Check out all our other videos, many thousands, various subjects. Truth doesn't go old, and we'll talk with you later. Bye-bye.